Hey everyone, this is David Goldberg. This is April 8th, 2025, episode 31 of Home Studio Show and Tell. Tonight we have two super cool voiceover actors. One is Don Geddis, the other Mike McGann, and I'm tempted to talk about both of them. I think I might give you just a brief one-liner on each, and then we'll let them kind of update us about them and their studios and their voiceover careers. They both come to this industry with completely different backgrounds. Prior to the show, we were talking, and Don comes from a broadcast background, broadcast school back in the 80s, I think he said, Don,
Yep.
right? And Mike comes from a machinist perspective, like very different industries, but they are both in voiceover now. Also, very different and interesting is that Mike is full time, where Don is part time. And it will be really interesting for us to see the studios that these two guys operate. They both have great sounding studios. I've heard voiceover work from both of their studios, and both pristine quality stuff. Let's start with Mike. Let's start with you. Tell us briefly, 1 minute intro. Who are you? Where can we hear your voice? Your voice is everywhere. I know that. Tell everyone else where we can hear your voice.
Well, I'm Mike McGann. I'm located in central Connecticut. I've been doing voiceover now for about 5 years, 3.5 full time. Most of my work at the moment is audio description and dubbing, but I've also recorded for television and radio, e-learning, video games, business-to-business explainers, and I did do an audiobook once. Lately, you can hear me do the audio description for The Bachelor, for Dr. Odyssey, The Cleaning Lady. I've done it for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and even Wheel of Fortune. So here's a few.
That is amazing. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Before we get into your studio, Don, let's hear just a brief bio from you.
Well, I mostly got into this 4 years ago. I did 2 years of training with a private tutor, and then I joined Edge Studio. I do it mostly part-time. I wouldn't say so much as a hobby, but I do it because I like it and it's fun. I work full-time, so I use this as a subsidy income, let's say. I built my own studio in my third bedroom. I'm progressing along. I do a lot of pay-to-play site and a lot of local yokel work. And that's basically it for me.
Don, let's start by going into your studio. Can you, Don, kind of switch that camera back, step back out of where you are, so we kind of see your studio from afar, like as if you're walking into your booth. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. What do you see in the morning when you walk into your studio? What does it look like?
Well, I'm standing right by the bedroom door, and the lighting isn't the best in here, but I have a short wall here, and I have a movable wall behind me because I use this for work too. And it goes all the way around to this side where I have another solid quilt that I put up.
So this is built by PVC tubing, I see.
Yeah, I did PVC tubing, and then I did a full panel of sound deadening material.
That's
and
great.
I put a red sheet over that to add to it.
Very nice.
And then let me move this out of the way so we can get some more light. There we go. As you can see, this is my movable back wall. And then we come in here.
Before you go in, let's see that door a bit more closely. You said it's a sound wall. It looks like a big piece of foam. Is that correct? Yeah, it is foam.
Yeah, it's dimpled foam.
That's great. So you've bought a big piece of foam. Usually when voice actors buy foam, they buy little squares, right? 1 foot by 1 foot or something, but you bought a whole sheet of it, which is great.
I actually bought 2 sheets. It was cheaper to do that. But then when I added to make it bigger, I did buy the small square foams.
Okay.
And I ended up doubling them up on the ceiling, as you can see right here.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's great.
I did like a drop ceiling in my bedroom.
That is terrific.
And then I did a mixture of quilts and sound deadening. And then this is actually a photography background that I cut up to use. And then I used your advice when I took a 15-minute class with you. I put the towel down when I do my recording because you were getting bounce back or something off of it. And
Yeah, a lot of voice actors do that. That's a great. So, Cameron, before we began, you were asking about your takeaways from this, and that is a great takeaway. A lot of voice actors do that. They put a towel on their any hard surface, like a desk, because you're talking right next to your desk, so it's very easy to get bounce back off of that. So that's great, Don.
and then
So before we get into your equipment, let's get the same perspective from Mike. Mike, can we see what it looks like when we walk, or sorry, what does it look like when you walk into your studio?
Well, I actually still have my other studio set up, so it's actually pretty similar to what he has. But that would actually be pretty helpful to share too. Because like this is the original setup I had,
Okay.
where this is actually only two moving blankets. Because this is one wrapped around a board. This is all between two bookcases and just a shower curtain rod back behind it. And then those clips just hold that from falling off. So
Okay.
same thing where it has the coverage here.
Wait, back up a little bit. It looks like this is suspended off of the floor, is it?
Oh no, it's on a desk.
Oh, it's on a desk. Okay.
Yeah, it just has thin metal legs. It actually used to be a full metal desk, but then I found that all the parts of it were too reflective, so I ended up stripping it down to just the top and buying legs.
Okay. So you've built sort of like an old photo booth on your desk.
Yeah, kind of. But then I have a curtain here that goes behind me too. So, but then
Okay.
back to what I have now. This is like a 4x4 booth. I think it was about 83 inches tall. And same thing here where there's plenty of padding on the desktop. Because sometimes even with you hitting the keyboard too hard, like pushing stop and go, you'll find that could even screw you up. But this being a custom size, same thing. I ended up using just a remnant piece from building the booth and buying legs for it.
Why do you have both setups set up?
Because I like the sound of the original. And if I ever want to direct somebody in the booth, I can do it from the first space. Last month, I was actually directing somebody.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So while you're in this booth, can you
Mhm.
slowly kind of move up and down so we can see what it looks like all around?
Yeah. So the ceiling, I think I measured at about 78 inches once it's all together. I'm stepping inside right now. So, I mean, that's still plenty of space. These are 2x4 sheets. So actually, those are in with screws instead of adhesive.
that's how I did mine too.
Yeah.
When I move,
The
I don't want to have to be repairing a wall.
the intake for my with the air circulation is behind the desk on that side. So
Bef-
just the exhaust right there is visible.
Okay. I want to talk more about the ventilation in a few minutes. Tell us,
Yep.
in the corners, those are all bass traps, I think. Is that correct? That I'm seeing
Oh
up
yeah.
and down?
Yeah, so these are all individual bass traps,
Okay.
but
Oh,
then
that's
I
fat. Oh,
also,
and the ceiling too. That's
yeah,
great.
went along the ceiling too.
Oh, that's got to
I,
sound.
I
Yeah.
had to factor that in when I was doing the lights because actually I built the ceiling and everything too. Like I think these are the $25 set of lights on Amazon. This was 25 also. But when I was figuring out the spacing, I accounted for the bass traps being in there. Because there's
Okay.
actually a free website you can use for like if you're putting recessed lighting in your basement. I just use that to figure out the spacing for the ceiling.
Okay. I
So
will.
I was sure to give myself plenty of lighting options too, just in case my eyes felt weird that day.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's very fun. For
yeah,
anyone
I
out there who
usually only
has a
record with that.
Well, for anyone out there who has a small booth, especially one with all parallel walls, you can easily get bass buildup, and that is when it's really ideal to have these bass traps, just big pieces of foam. I know people who have have an alternative to using foam or purchasing a real actual bass trap. They take a sonotube that you might pour for cement in construction and just fill it with sand. I've seen that done. I've seen people take old sleeping bags and roll them up and just attach them into the corners. Typically, it's the corners where that bass builds up. So you are totally protected here with all that. That you have more bass traps in your studio than I've seen in any studio ever.
Yeah, bass isn't the problem.
Yeah, wow. Let's go back to Don for a second. Don,
Sure.
let's talk about ventilation. Mike brought it up, and it's always an interesting topic. Does your booth get hot? And if so, what do you do?
No, it really doesn't get hot. I keep it dark. I just have one lamp in here, and when I close the wall, the bedroom ceiling lamp gets blocked out. It's kind of my zen area, actually. I like it. I like it darker, and my house has really good ventilation anyway. And this is on the end of the house, so it stays pretty cool.
You're lucky. Almost every voice actor I know complains about their booth getting hot, especially with long form narration.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean,
Good for you.
I crank the air conditioning up in the summertime, so.
Oh, that works. That's great. Mike, what about you? So you started talking about your ventilation.
Yeah, it's I used a 4-inch bathroom fan. It was actually super quiet. I can have it up to about quarter speed before you start to hear it, and even then, it's like around like 55, minus 60 decibels anyway. So after noise reduction, it's basically gone. I just don't use it if I'm being directed because I don't want them to complain about it. But if I'm by myself, it's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that fan only cost me like 25 because, like I said, it's just a bathroom fan. If you get the ones that say voiceover on them, it's automatically like 80 or $100.
Yeah. Do you
But
have
just look at the CFM rating on it.
yeah, then that's an easy thing. Do you have access to the tubes? And if so, do you kind of turn them in all different directions so they decrease in decibels?
Yeah, I had to twist it in 2 spots.
Okay.
And then for the enclosure for the fan itself, I ended up just using the box that the vent came in anyway. Just
Okay. That's
putting
great.
an extra piece of styrofoam in it just to make sure it wouldn't vibrate on the floor.
Okay. Fabulous. So let's talk about mics and equipment. Don, what's going on in your place?
Um,
What's going on?
Yeah,
you caught me off guard there. I have a set of Sony professional headphones I use, and I got a Blue Yeti USB microphone that I use.
I
I
I like
use
this.
Audacity too.
Okay. I like to say something because my gut says that people will hear you say a Blue Yeti USB and they'll say, "What? That's not that professional."
Yeah, it
I
is.
will I think I think
I
that
guess it work.
I know your studio sounds great. I've heard it. I believe that the microphone that you use could be only the fourth most important element in terms of your sound quality. I believe that the acoustics of your space is the most important thing. If you have a good sounding studio, meaning there's no echo, there's no extraneous noise, if it's a good sounding studio, and if you use your microphone well, and if your gains and processing are set correctly, even the crappiest mic is going to sound pretty good. And the reverse is completely the opposite. If you have a great mic,
Why are you laughing,
$3,000,
man?
right, a $3,000 microphone, but your room sounds bad and your gain is set incorrectly and your processing is not good and you don't even use the microphone well, that $3,000 microphone is going to sound terrible. I think when it comes down to how you sound, I think the most important factor is setting up your booth, setting up the acoustics inside your studio. That has to be first. And so many people out there
Yeah,
automatically,
I saved equipment
really,
for
yeah,
last.
they automatically assume that all the sound comes from the microphone, and they put down USB microphones. Look, I own 5 studios worth of microphones. That's what we have in New York City, 5 studios, and I own so many microphones. Right now, I'm at $110 USB microphone. It
Yeah.
sounds great.
I mean, if
It's
I was doing it more like Mr. McCann, I would probably invest in, what do you call that extra, the box with a regular microphone?
interface.
Uh,
Oh, the
yeah,
interface.
I'd invest in an interface and a regular microphone. But for what I do and who I'm doing it for, the USB is more than good enough for me.
I think it
And
sounds
I
great.
recorded with the Scarlet bundle for most of my career so far with absolutely no problem. Like I did Who Wants
Yeah,
to Be a Millionaire with that, so you don't need high-end equipment just to get started.
no.
But I
Mike,
waited until like my booth was done before I started looking at equipment upgrades.
and what are you using now, Mike?
Now I'm using a TLM 102. That's a road arm that can go high enough to stand from there. Then I got a Volt 1 interface, and I got the DT 770 headphones.
Great setup. What is your DAW?
I generally use Adobe Audition, but I'm getting into Pro Tools now for certain customers.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I mean, we're all Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Four of our five rooms are Pro Tools. One has Logic in it. Um, so, Don, why did you choose Audacity? I have Audacity on my home computer. Why did you choose Audacity?
Because I'm cheap.
No, Audacity is great. I used it for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it does what I need it to do, and I'm technologically challenged when it comes to everything that is involved with all the other stuff, and that's what Tommy Griffiths told me I should use. So that I started with that, and Art Bruder. I took a class with Art Bruder, a private class, and he showed me how to adjust everything, and he actually tested my booth to make sure it was a professional quality. So that's what I use.
Yeah, you and Art have a lot in common because he also comes from a broadcast school background.
Yeah, I like Art. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he ran Connecticut School of Broadcasting for something like 10 years, or he ran, I think, two or three of their campuses. I think they had 10 or 11 campuses at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has quite a voice on him. And
Yeah, I did my narration demo with Art. It's a great guy.
oh, fabulous. Yeah. Yeah, he's still at Edge. If anyone wants to work with Art, if you want a home studio consultation or help with Audacity, specifically Audacity, Art is the guy. Anyone at Edge Studio can set you up with him. Call our office. And he's amazing at helping coach voice actors and putting together demos. So, quick question. Let me start with you, Mike. The shows you work on, are
Yeah.
you typically recording solo or do you have clients patching in? And if they are patching in, what software do you use? For example, Source Connect or IPDTL? What do you use?
Most of my work is self-directed. If I have to connect with a client, most of the time it's either Source Connect or using Session Link Pro.
Okay. Oh, that's great. So we started using Session Link Pro. It's amazing. There's like zero latency.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised that through the browser it's that good.
Yeah, yeah. We often will interconnect with multiple countries, multiple people in different countries, and you can see like your latency is like 0.06 of a second. Like it's astounding. That's so fast.
Yeah, it's funny because I still have the habit of shutting off everything I don't need on the Wi-Fi just to make sure it doesn't screw anything over. But I have a high speed fiber connection anyway, so never had a problem.
Are you able to play back for a client live?
Yes, I had to figure that out the last time because I wanted to, but then I wasn't sure exactly the options on it. But last time I was in Zoom, I saw that and I was able to play back for him.
Okay. Yeah, that's not easy. Well, it's
No, that's
easy.
why I was
It's
glad I
easy.
saw how to do it.
Yeah, it's easy if you don't mind like feedback, but that doesn't sound very good. So,
Yeah.
uh, and Don, so Don, tell us what is a typical session like for you? You're typically recording solo, right? Or do you ever have direct client directed sessions?
When I started, we would connect on Zoom, but now pretty much the people that I do the work for, they know what to expect and they know what I can do. So I pretty much just do my own thing.
Okay.
They give me
Mike,
a background on what they're looking for.
Mike, when you are dubbing, how do you work? Are you lip syncing? Are you working with beeps? What's your typical process? Dubbing is quite complicated.
Mhm. Well, that's the thing. It can be pretty different depending on the company you're working with. Like, voice cue is pretty common and pretty widely used, but I find that most of the clients I work with still end up just using like a time-coded Microsoft Word scripts.
Are you reading to
So,
picture?
yep, yeah. So I'll just watch for my time to come up and I'll go for it.
So
I think the
and
only one that actually had beeps was one of my clients that uses voice cue, but none of the other ones have given me beeps.
when you're dubbing, are you dubbing from another language into English?
Yep. Yeah, I've done some Russian, Italian, Spanish. Not that I know those languages, but just English as the target language. So yeah, I've
What,
done for a few different languages actually.
Do you
and
try? Can I ask a question?
of course.
Do you, when you're dubbing, do you actually try to sync it up with the lip movements, or you just go ahead and read it and according to the time frame?
It depends on what kind of dubbing it is. If it's UN dubbing, like they use, like let's say like on the news for people that they're translating,
Yeah,
the mouth movement isn't necessary there. So if I'm doing let's say UN style dubbing for audio description, I'm not matching it to them. I'm just matching it because you have to fit it within the time stamps that you have.
yeah,
Now, if I have any of my other dubbing clients, I always actually match it to the picture and then send it to them, and then they let me know if they need any adjustments or anything.
interesting.
If you have
Thanks.
to, oh, sorry. If you need to adjust to a certain amount of time,
Mhm.
down to let's say a tenth of a second, would you go and re-record something typically, or would you just use time compression or time expansion software?
If it's that small, I would probably just end up just doing a time stretch on it, and then
Okay.
listening back and making sure it doesn't sound like it was time stretched or created any new artifacts. And then
Yeah.
if it sounds good, then that's fine. But if I can tell that it's been worked with, then I'll just re-record it. Or sometimes it's easier just to just jump in and just redo it. Depends on how long the line is.
Good point. Very good point. And when you are dubbing, are you typically listening to the background, the other language, the target, the other language, the music, the sound effects, in addition to watching the video, or do you just mute everything and just watch the video?
I've done it both ways, but I'm fine with just having it on low, just as like a reference in the back of my mind when somebody comes in. Usually I also find like a visual to go by also. Like let's say somebody like walk past a pillar or something happens in the background or something, and it happens to be right when somebody starts talking, I start using that as my visual cue. Just so
Okay,
they don't come in and say, "Well, you're a little off on the time." It's like, no, if I have a visual cue, then you're right there.
that's great. Okay. And I'm realizing, and I apologize to everyone, there are some questions in the chat. Let me look at these questions and see. Let's see if well, there's comments here. Someone asked if you recorded your demos in your booths. Mike, what about you?
I did my commercial and narration demo with Edge Studios in New York City.
Yay, Edge.
Yeah,
Yes.
the only place to record a demo.
Don, what about you?
I did mine locally in Cleveland with a studio that you guys recommended.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
We recommend, but who directed you on this session?
What was her name? Pinedo? I
Suzanne?
can't remember. I'm sorry.
Are you thinking of
Was it Suzanne?
Suzanne Pinedo?
Or is she just your teaching coordinator?
Yeah, she was the
No,
coordinator.
she actually um, directed me on the commercial.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So
Yeah,
more Edge.
yeah,
Okay. See,
yeah.
Edge does it all the time. Okay. Let
I
me see what
actually
else is out
I
here.
paid for like
Checking
a
all the
six.
boxes.
I paid for like a 6 session commercial class with the demo.
Very cool. And there's a question here. Someone asked a while ago, what's wrong with the USB, meaning a USB microphone? I think nothing is wrong with the USB microphone. I'm glad to be on video saying it. As I said earlier, I really do believe that the sound quality, when you look at all of the aspects, all of the factors that are taken into consideration when you talk about sound quality, the sound of your space, the sound of your voice, how you use the microphone, your gain structure, which is really important, your processing, whether you process or not, and how you do, whether or not you're using parametric EQs and de-essers and so on. All of those things are equally or even more important than the quality of the microphone. I mean, of course, everything is important. And to some degree, a really low end microphone won't pick up the very highs and it won't pick up the very lows of your voice. And even the middle may not sound as crisp and there might be more noise in the background. So I'm not talking about using a $10 USB microphone. But the mic I'm using now, which is I'm using an Audio Tech. Actually, before I even tell you what microphone I'm using, I want to stress that you should never buy the microphone that works for someone else. Buy the microphone that works for you and your space. I just wrote an article on this and we're going to release it through our newsletter. And I started the article by saying, I wear my pant size, I wear 32 by 32. And just because they fit me doesn't mean they fit you. It is just like a microphone. The microphone
So
may fit
it's a bad
me.
time to say those are my sizes.
Oh, there you go. Very
I'm
cool.
not going to tell you my sizes.
Pants
But like,
win.
but they fit my shape.
Yeah.
And I have to buy a microphone that fits my voice and my space and my acoustics and my DAW and everything. I'm not even a voice actor and I care about this stuff, right? And I think everyone should really make sure that you don't purchase the microphone that works for someone else, just like you wouldn't purchase the size pants that works for someone else. There is the concept of one size fits all. And I know that that works in pants, but it probably doesn't look good on anyone. Same with a microphone. You could buy a microphone that kind of works across the board. Yeah, it kind of works for everyone. But does it sound is it the best for you? Probably not. So I will tell you the microphone I use, but it doesn't mean it's the right microphone for you. I use an Audio-Technica 2020. It's a USB version. I bought this 5 or 6 years ago, and I was just thinking about this the other day. When my younger son was 8 or 9, he started narrating audiobooks, and I did not want him grabbing like a nice Neumann. I own so many Neumann microphones. Those are much more expensive microphones. I own like, I don't know, half dozen of them. But I didn't want him grabbing them. And I put this mic into my space. I set up my home studio where I am, or my home office for recording for my son. Sounds great. And his voice always gets compliments on we always get compliments on the sound quality. And now both of my sons have narrated audiobooks. And I will tell you that when an 8 or 9-year-old gets $200 an hour, that is like you or me getting like $1 million an hour. You realize that? He was like, my wife and I had to tell our sons, don't even tell kids in school you're making $200 an hour because it won't seem right. Like,
I wish I would have started at 8 years old.
yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so let's get back. So yes, there is nothing wrong with USB microphones. Now, someone else asked the questions. They said XLR mics are better quality, and then you need an interface. In the grand scheme of things, yes, the best microphones still are XLR microphones. Yet every day the USB microphones are getting better, and eventually, I think everyone knows that eventually we'll all be digital. Almost everything in our lives has gone digital. I mean, how many of us use like an analog camera anymore? Most of us use digital cameras.
Yep.
Eventually, I think everyone will be on USB microphones, and we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But every day the USB microphones are getting better, and B&H, which is a huge retailer in New York City, bought out our studio, one of our rooms, for 3 days, and they tested 68 of the most popular voice-over microphones. They used our Studio B because our Studio B is really known for having like perfect sound. And this mic that I'm on was one of the 68 that they brought in, so I was thrilled. And I looked at the specs, and the specs were like 98 or 95, I think it was, percent as good as a $3,000 Neumann microphone. They're not like if you want the best, yes, you can get an XLR microphone. And yes, then you need an interface also. Okay, let's get back to Don and Mike. I'm getting off my bandstand here.
David.
Someone wrote, I bought the same Audio Technica about 4 years ago. I still have not started my business yet. Who said that? I'm not going to say their name, but you get going. Call me. I'll get you going. We are beginners on this, so we are developing everything. We have an AMC1 USB condenser microphone. I'm not sure what that is. For DAW, we are using Adobe Audition. That's great software. Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to some recording. Don, when you're at your booth, when you're recording, tell us, how do you read scripts? Do you print them out on paper? Do you use a tablet, which a lot of people do, so you can scroll up and down without having it make noise? If you have to annotate software, if you need to comment on the script, for example, if a client says, can you add a pause there or slow down here? How do you mark up the script, or do you put it onto a screen? What do you do when you record? And Mike, I'll ask you this question next.
I just use my monitor, and I have the DAW open on one side, and then I copy and paste the script on a Word document. I keep every audition in a folder. I have them broken out into Mandy's, Backstage, Edge Studio, all that stuff. And I just work right off of my monitor.
Okay. And yeah, which is a great way to do it. So if a client says add a space there, or even if you want to give yourself direction, you just can change it right in the document.
Yeah. Like I break, usually when I get an audition, it's like one big long run-on sentence. So I break them down into sentences. Each line is a sentence, so I can, look at it and just generally read through it and pick all my breathing points and stuff like that.
That sounds great. Mike, what about you?
Most of the scripts I end up using Microsoft Word next to the DAW, and then I'll make like my little color annotations, like as far as pronunciation or grouping things together, or let's say if it's long enough, I'll um, make a note on the timestamp that I'm separating the files,
But
so I
you have
remember when I'm coming back up.
okay, but you have a third thing you're watching, right? You're watching the video very often.
Yeah.
So
So
you have your
usually I'll have
DAW
the
and video
video
and
rendered.
script. You have three things you're monitoring. Do you have two monitors?
Nope, it just gets busy.
Okay.
It's like, let's say I can flip this for you actually.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, if we can see what it looks like when
It's
you
like this
work.
is the script that's been out from what was it? Finding Your Roots. So this is fine. So let's say usually I have my DAW here, my script here. Usually I'll have the video here, which is fine because you're really only looking at the top half of the page anyway. So it basically just frames it. And then let's say if I'm going back through and editing, then I just look at the top line. When that's good, then I just move that off the screen, make sure this one's good. Then same thing, just work my way down.
Okay.
So yeah, I do it all on screen.
And you're on I presume you're on headphones the whole time, even when you listen back. Is that correct? Actually, when you
Yeah.
edit, if you go back to edit, are you editing on headphones typically?
Yeah, but what I do is I turn off the direct monitor so I'm not distracted by new noises or hisses from the microphone. So I'm only focusing on what was recorded. So that's what I like about this Volt 1 is that it has a pretty easy on-off switch on the front. So I just tap it on when I need it. And like let's say if I'm doing pickups, I'll turn it back on, do the pickup, and I'll turn it back off and listen to it. Because with your luck as a voice actor, whenever you're listening back to something, that's when something noisy happens. It's not actually in the recording. I always think about Indiana Jones with the librarian stamping it, and he's always like, "Oh, where'd that come from?"
That's
Yeah, I get
funny.
a whisper from across the street every now and then. That, and I'm like, son of a gun.
Yeah. Well, that's why I had to build the booth because in general I was pretty good, but I live near an airport, so it didn't help me with the low flying planes. But I haven't had
Yeah.
problems since. They said they were going to close it, and I swear I just heard more airplanes.
You know,
They're getting their
recent,
last trip in.
not really recently, probably 2 months ago, a woman was telling me, a voice actor, and she's done quite well. She was telling me that on 1 day or 2 days of the week during summer, the landscapers are in the neighbor's house, and she has to plan around it. And she knows she can't record on like Thursday mornings or whatever time of the week it is, but that's a pain because sometimes the client needs something on that Thursday morning. She has to get the job done, and she was about to spend so much money to soundproof her studio. For anyone out there, it is really expensive, very expensive to truly soundproof. To
Yeah, you can
soundproof, you
sound
need,
treat it, but never
yes,
really soundproof it.
yes, sound treating, controlling the acoustics in the booth. That's inexpensive. That's what you do with foam.
Yeah.
Soundproofing, meaning to get rid of trucks and fire truck sirens and things like that. That is expensive. She was about to spend like $15,000 to soundproof, and I said, "Why not just like pay the neighbors $50 when the landscapers are there, and just have them come back some other time? Like it's a lot cheaper." Like,
Oh yeah. Or during the fall, I'll check the leaf pickup for the town, so I'm not surprised by the fact that today's the day they're going to be out there doing.
oh yeah, yeah. So
Out
Because they
where
post
we
it
live,
right on
we
the
do
town
keep going.
website, so it's worth writing on your calendar as a voice actor.
someone wrote my question was skipped. Whoever, if I skipped a question, I have not seen them all. Can you repost your question to the bottom? Mike, tell us what processing are you using? De-essers, parametric EQs, do you compress? Do you just normalize?
Usually, I do. Trying to think of my keys. I usually do dynamics for my noise reduction, and then I do light EQ, and then I use isotope for mouth click removal, and then I normalize, and that's usually it. I
So
usually don't compress because usually save that for the client. And I also find that sometimes I don't like what it does to the audio file, so I'd rather that be their problem. Because to me, it always sounds so nice and crisp, and then once you start compressing things, and you start messing with it.
I think the opposite. I think it can sound a lot better once you compress, which is why every studio, every engineer at every commercial studio does compress. It
Yeah.
really can make things, I think, much crisper, but it can bring up like the noise that, you're talking about, noise and clicks, it can bring that stuff up.
Yeah.
But because the compressor takes the louder volumes and brings them down. So now the delta between your highest and lowest volume is much smaller. And then there's typically a makeup gain or you normalize and that raises everything back up. So you're raising the noise floor. So noise can get raised up, which is why it's really important to start with a good sound. That's really
Oh,
important.
yeah.
One quick question on the parametric EQ. What are you typically shaping with that? Are you bringing up some highs or cutting off some low end? What are you doing with the EQ?
Mostly just putting a high pass filter on it, and then right around um, 10,000, I have a little bit of a dip, and that's it.
No.
Because I think on my microphone, I think on the frequency response chart, I think right around 10 is where they start to boost it. But then that also said for my room when I was checking calculations that right around 10 is going to be the worst. So I just drop it there like 2 decibels, and that's it.
Okay, that's great. That's a great practice you did, and I think every voice actor should do that. Check the quality of the room. You can download an app for that, right? And just or use your microphone and put software on your computer and see where your microphone is when you stand there, what it sounds like, and how is that read through the microphone, and get a real true read of the sound in that spot of your studio, and then compensate for it with an EQ. That's a great idea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of back and forth with it. A lot of clapping, too.
Don, what about you?
Well, I'm not nearly as intricate as Mr. McGann. I
Oh,
normalize and I DS, and when I start to record, I make sure it's between what is it, the 12 and 6 numbers. And when I record with my voice, I'm 99% of the time I'm right at where I need to be.
Okay.
Quick and simple for me.
It seems to work very nicely. Your natural voice is so good that yeah, I don't
Well,
think you
this
even
isn't
need
even the
EQ.
voice I record with. This is the voice I record with. I get a
Yeah,
little deeper.
yeah, that's good. That's great. Really nice. I have one question for Mike, but first I do want to look at the chat because I think that person reposted the question. Someone wrote, Mike, what kind of desk did you use as a base for your old setup?
the on the old setup, that was actually it used to be like a metal office desk. And then eventually I just ended up throwing out all the metal parts of it and just keeping the top because the space requirement was so specific. I couldn't really get another desk. And I ended up just keeping it there. And that's why in here I ended up just cutting a remnant piece from when I was building the booth.
I wonder if any companies sell a desk that is made of a surface that absorbs sound, like a stronger,
Oh, if I had like a
almost
cork
like,
layer to it.
yeah, like a cork. Yeah, yeah, that would be well a lot
I
better
think there are
than
actually cork desks.
yeah,
I know it's
or
cork tiles, but that's different.
cork like a compressed foam or something. It would have to be hard enough to put a computer stand on or even write with, or if you're sitting at your desk and with a laptop or something. But that'd be interesting. Rather than having to put down towels, as so many voice actors do. There's two other questions here. Does Edge offer processing stack service? Yes. Send a sample, get a processing preset. Yes, we can do that. Someone wrote, curious if Mike has plans for his booth available. Trying to decide whether to build or buy something. Think I want to build. Yeah, whoever asked that is Steve. It's a good question. I would really look through the various home studio show and tell, because as you go through the past episodes, probably 50% of people have a purchased desk, and half the people have built something. So I think by watching other people, what they've talked about, you will live and learn. There have been some episodes where people talk about how they made errors by buying a booth, a voiceover booth, like a Studio Bricks booth or a whisper room or something, and they didn't think about which way the door would swing in or out, or if the hinges are on the left or the right side, and they realized that they kind of went the wrong way, and had they known to think about that beforehand, they would
There
have
aren't
done it
really doors you
differently.
can flip.
Yeah, and so these things are really important. So if the more episodes you watch, the more you're going to learn, and like it's like just learn off of someone else's mistakes. Seriously,
It's not
uh,
real hard or real expensive to build a studio either.
there are at least 5 or 6 episodes where of home studio show and tell, where people have completely built their own booth, and some of them are fantastic.
There was one
Really,
with a father who had 2 young children, and all they did was pack a closet with mattresses, and it worked out great for them.
that is, yeah. His name is Chris. He has 4 kids.
Oh,
They have now
okay.
they have now passed 2,000 voiceover projects, paid work between the 4 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done a lot.
Hey, put them to work, man. There's no child labor laws in voiceover.
Yeah, well, my son's $200 an hour for reading an audiobook. By the time he's going to college, that'll be like, worth a couple $1,000s.
I actually have a
That's
picture
it.
of the layers of my booth if everyone wants to see that.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
So that's when I was putting it together. Like, this is 1/4 inch carpet on the outside, 3/4 MDF, an inch of cellulose foam, a 1/4 inch of plywood, and then this is the interior 1/4 inch of carpet. So there's lots of layers in that.
There are, and that's really good. Each different layer can sort of stop different frequencies from getting through.
Oh
And so
yeah,
by
because
using
even when I
different,
had this layer, it was already a tank.
yeah,
But I was like, no, I'm going to keep going.
yeah, that's a great combination of layers. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Someone is saying, how are people finding legit paying VO work these days? That's a great question, and that I don't want to answer that now, because this show is about home studios. You call me, we can talk about marketing some other time. Someone wrote, love that wall sample. Yeah. So let, let's go back to you, Don, for a second. Your
Sure.
drop ceiling, which is very cool. Tell us why you did a drop ceiling rather than putting foam up on the actual ceiling. Why did you lower it?
I have 9-foot ceilings, and to build a 9-foot high movable wall was out of PVC was just not going to work because it's too flexible. And I didn't want to do my whole bedroom ceiling. So I brought it down, I don't know, about 1.5 feet. So it's, like 6 or 8 inches over my head. It made less that I had to foam up, and, I didn't have to go as high on the walls. That's why I did that.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people often talk about how they are recording in a small area and they feel bad about it. There is a huge benefit to recording in a small area. You have that much less area to have to treat.
Well, and, I have to sit when I record because I have a really, really bad back and I can't stand for a long time. So, and it was easier for me when I did it. I'm a very what I call cost effective person. I'm cheap, so I try to do it
That's what I am. So.
as quickly as I can.
So you talked about putting a red sheet over the foam. Now a sheet is pretty thin. It's so thin it barely stops the highest of frequencies. Is it thicker than a typical sheet, or is it a flannel sheet that might do a bit more good? Or is that red sheet more for decor?
Yeah, it's more for color.
Okay.
I do, in a totally black room, it kind of reflects the light off of my lamp, so I get just a little bit, soft light off of it. So,
Okay.
but no,
That's
it
good.
does. It's not for the sound at all.
Yeah, you would need more than one sheet to really affect the sound.
Yeah, I would. If I was going to do that, I'd put an old quilt over it or something like that. But it works fine the way it is. I mean, I'm happy with it.
I
Yeah.
usually stock up on like the $10 moving blankets from Harbor Freight and then pick up some of their dollar clips at the register.
Yeah.
That's how I did most of that other setup that you saw. And it's always worth having like an extra blanket or two around. Just if you start to hear something weird, just throw a blanket over it and then see if it goes away. And if it does, then keep it there and go buy another blanket.
Yeah, I have plenty of old quilts, and I used to be a photographer, so I have plenty of backdrops that, I mean, they're 8 foot by 10 foot, so I can fold them in half and make them twice as thick.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, I do that on occasion,
I want
like when
to
that damn rooster clucks.
I'd like to show everyone a really interesting studio. I'm going to share my screen. This is exactly what you're saying. Okay, if everything went well, my screen is now being shown, and I'm just moving some Zoom things
Yeah, I
out
can
of the
see it.
way. I'm going to move one more Zoom thing out of the way, so you guys don't see it, but I do. Okay, so on our home studio show and tell page, where we have all of the past episodes, which this episode will be posted in a few days. If I scroll down to where it says watch past episodes, if I scroll down 2 episodes ago, episode 29 is Lakeisha. Her entire studio is made of folded moving blankets. I'm going to hop into it. I've never seen another studio like it, and it was really cool. This is, I know there's a spot. Oh, here it is, where you can actually see her whole room. Here, look at this.
Going to go underneath and then attach it, and then it could fold over. But they come perfectly folded in the depth that would help dampen. And it's probably been the best space out of the ones I've recorded in before for keeping the background noise.
So tell us. So
yeah.
on, if you look up,
yes,
and on the left wall, yeah. So there it's lower. Are you wrapping around a beam? So this is all foam blankets, no foam in her studio.
Hmm.
And her stuff sounds great. She records at Edge quite a bit, and her studio is fantastic. So if anyone has a room and you don't like the look of foam, well, there's another alternative. Just get a whole bunch of sound blankets. And Mike, I thought of that because you were saying you go to these moving companies and you get these blankets for $10. A moving blanket is great. They sound so good, and when you fold it, it really dampens the sound.
Oh yeah. Because actually, even outside in this room itself, I lined it with moving blankets just to stop the little slapback I was getting from around the room.
Oh, that's great. Let me see at the questions here. Someone wrote triple the blankets. Yes. How are people? Okay. As we're down to our last few minutes, if anyone has any questions, please feel welcome to just come on and ask your question. Or if you're not comfortable doing that, you can type in your question. And as I'm waiting for questions, if there are any, let me ask Don and Mike if you guys have anything else to add, anything that's interesting about your studio. You bought special lights, your microphone. Oh, wait, we never even talked about what mic. Oh, no, we did. Of course, we had a whole conversation about what mic you're using. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, we talked about that.
Yeah. Sorry. If you have anything that's you think of that might be interesting for someone to know, let us know. Last minute questions, anyone?
David, what do you have behind you on your studio?
What are you asking me?
Yes,
This is not a studio. I am in my cinder
basement.
block. Yeah, I am in my cinder block basement, which is where my little office is in our house. It's cinder block wall. What I have behind me are sound walls made by a company called Clear Sonic, and I love these walls. The Clear Sonic panels, which are available, come sort of two panels connected by a piece of fabric, and they fold in or out, so they are self-standing. So even though I have them against the wall, they don't have to be against the wall. They can be completely self-standing. I have them behind me. I have one to the left, one to the right, and one right ahead of me. And they completely control the acoustics of my space. So only my sons are recording audiobooks. I'm not a voice actor, but still the space is really acoustically treated very well. And on the ceiling, there, let me show you. I have foam squares. Can you see that?
Yep.
And so that works out really well. These foam, I just put these up. This is a new foam square. Amazon has these. They're 3 inches thick, which is really thick. And they're
Oh, wow.
they're curved. Each piece is curved, and it gets thinner at the edge, so you can overlap them, which is really interesting. They came with stickers to hang up. The sticker lasted about a minute, so then I just used nails and nailed them into the ceiling. And above that, my ceiling are pieces of I almost said lead, not lead, but I'm blanking the name. It's like an acoustic material to prevent sound from transmitting up into, like, our bedroom is right upstairs. So if my wife goes to sleep, then I'm still gabbing away at like this, it doesn't, nothing gets upstairs. Almost nothing gets upstairs. So I have fairly good soundproofing, and I have all the acoustic treatment. So yeah, my space sounds great, especially that especially for a space that's not really a studio. It still sounds really good.
Thank you.
And just if you guys want to find that out, I repeat, it's Clear Sonic. They make translucent panels and these kind of fabric panels. They weigh like 2 pounds, and they're 7 feet tall, which is great. So they go from the ground almost to the ceiling. It's terrific. And they have Velcro along the sides of them, so you can connect one to the next. So you can form an entire room around you, and then just lay a moving blanket across the top, and you'd have a great sounding studio. And you can put it away in minutes, so it doesn't have to stay out. Okay, I have one question here, and then we'll end the day. Someone's question is, could I use PVC pipes to support acoustic blankets or duvets? Yeah, of course.
2-inch.
Which sizes would be strong enough? Yeah,
2-inch.
2-inch. Don knows. He's done it.
If you go thinner, it's way too wobbly.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I started
Well,
using really thin ones and it collapsed.
It collapsed.
Yeah.
Full panels are pretty heavy. I have them held up with a bunch of zip ties, and I put handles on mine, so I can just reach back and close it completely off.
Okay.
They also make those rolling closet frames. I feel like you could probably even get away with those and not have to worry about it bending.
I also know people who've used accordion divider walls, which you could probably pick up at Amazon for maybe $100 or so. And those are nice. Anytime you're dealing with something that is the divider walls that's self-standing, you have angles in them, and angles are really helpful to break up sound.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So if you are in a corner of a room, you have two walls, one in front of you, for example, one on the side, then use divider walls on the other side of you and behind you. And then you have all those angles built in. So the divider wall will self-stand because you angle it, right? In, out. And that will really help your sound. And then, yeah, just lay a blanket on top or do what Don did or what Mike did. And yeah, your space will sound great.
Okay. Can I put like a blanket on top or not? Or would that make it too dead?
There's almost no such thing as too dead in voiceover. Yeah, it's important to be able to record and have no echo whatsoever.
Yeah, you pretty much just want dead air.
Yeah.
One last question.
Yes.
So this has to do with some inspiration I got from cleaning out my basement locker. Could you logically this is an idea I had. Could you attach foam paneling to divider walls, or would that carry too much weight?
It depends on how strong the divider wall is, but I would think so. I mean, foam is really light.
If you buy the little squares off of Amazon, they aren't real heavy, and you can always double them up. They're so cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even these 2x4 sheets are pretty light, so I don't think weight would be a difference. Probably just could you keep putting it away without having the panels just fall off of it? Just more about how you're attaching it.
Yeah, you zip ties at the top or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to acknowledge that Don and Mike are sharing their time tonight to help everyone else build their own studios. They are not being paid for this. They are just sharing what they've learned.
I'm not being paid
to learn. And so I want everyone to really acknowledge that, and not that I'm saying you need to thank them. That's up to you, of course, but they are here just on their own, just to help you out, and so I really appreciate it to both of you, and it's great. I love seeing inside studios. I work with people. I've known both of you for some time, and to finally see inside your studios is very exciting and very cool. I love the fact that both of your studios are so different, yet you both end up with really, really good sound. That just shows that you can customize your studio to your needs. Cameron, you asked that question right before we began, and that's what I said. That's what the show is about, figuring out, learning that, you have to tailor the studio to you. And tonight is a perfect example of that. So Mike and Don, thank you so much. And everyone else, thank you so much. We will be back next month. This show is always the second Tuesday of the month. This was episode 31, so I don't know who is on 32, but someone in our office will schedule that, and I hope to see you next month, the second Tuesday of the month, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Thanks, David. You're the best, man.
Yeah, you
Thank
guys
Thanks
are.
for having us, David.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
David. Good
Thank
night.
Mike,
you.
thanks, Don.
Have a
Thanks.
good night.
Bye,
Have a
everyone.
good night. Bye bye.